I thought I was the only one. Thought I was the one who was working on apologizing less. I feel my face flush. She got me again. Yuri and I sit in the graveyard at the park with our newly bought books in a bag nearby. It's the end of another school week, our first one since getting back together. Again, I don't think we ever officially broke up, but I guess I was wrong about that. Yuri delicately selects a book from the bag. How about In the Stranger's Grove? Sounds great. Yuri nods in satisfaction and we assume our familiar joint reading position. We place the book in our laps due to the lack of a desk, but it otherwise works the same. We start reading together. The only sound we produce is the turning of pages at a steady pace. I lose track of time in the tranquility. I'm so absorbed in reading that I'm startled when Yuri pipes up. Did you see the set of emails going around this week? I had been hoping this wouldn't come up. I just wanted an afternoon to relax with Yuri and forget about school trouble, but I guess this was unavoidable. Yeah, I guess that guy kept his word, huh? Yuri nods, bearing a neutral expression. Yes, he did. The slightest grin forms on Yuri's face, although it is slightly amusing to see what he came up with about us. I mentally review what the newest round of emails contained. Yeah, I guess he was more desperate this time. Man, if people believe this stuff? I shake my head, knowing full well that some people certainly still would. Do the emails bother you at all, Yuri? She pauses to consider her response. Do they bother you? Hey, you can't just turn the question like that. Never mind. I sigh as I plan out my own response. They still kinda do, if we're being honest. That someone is trying so hard just to put us down. But I've got you, as well as the rest of the literature club. I think I'll manage. We don't have to be scared of the words of a hothead and his lackeys. Yuri leans in closer. I'll manage too then. I put an arm around Yuri, who matches my move. It's less convenient for reading, but I think we both prefer this position. We resume reading, the pace returning to what it was before. I notice that Yuri's left sleeve has fallen back enough to reveal scars. Yuri notices as well, but she doesn't pull her sleeve back up. She keeps them visible as she speaks once again. I think I'm going to start looking for a therapist. She faces me with a quiet confidence. I'm ready now. I'm surprised, but mostly relieved. Yuri, that's great. Do you need any help looking for one, or? I'll let you know if I do, thank you. Of course. I can see Yuri is already becoming more sure of herself. Spending time with her like this, it reminds me of how thankful I am that I can be with her. It's hard to put the book down, but we eventually reach a stopping point. Yuri puts the book back in the bag and we stand up. Shall we be off? Yeah. We join hands and exit the graveyard, new books in tow. Yuri told me that I should be the one to take them home. I had a good day today, Yuri. Book shopping, reading here. It was real nice. Yuri smiles warmly. No, it's usually Monika that smiles warmly. I'm glad. I enjoyed today too. We should do this again sometime. Absolutely. An idea comes to mind. I'll get her this time. You know, Yuri, I'm lucky to have you in my life. Yuri blushes at the surprise compliment. Well, I'm even luckier to have you. I expected something like this, but a warmness spreading across my face betrays me. We're left goofily smiling at each other as we walk together. I guess this one's a draw. The school year goes on. I feel like a full-blown member of the literature club now, all the more with Yuri at my side. Yuri continues to grow and stay true to herself, any public opinion be damned. I too can say I'm doing much better for myself. I've kept my outbursts under control, and I can say with confidence I've found a place where I belong. We're never directly confronted by the bullies group again. They stick to emails among other minor things, but even that dies down. Or maybe Yuri and I just ignore it more and more. It doesn't really matter. Right now we have each other, and that's what's important. We can continue to grow together and overcome challenges, and we can talk to each other whether life is easy or hard. We can work and figure things out, one day at a time. Okay, Wow, that was the good ending for the Yuri routes, I guess. Hey, Monika, that's another good ending under my belt. What, you want me to comment on what you've done? Here's some sort of congratulations? What else is that to say? You saved Yuri, didn't you? She's getting help and has a pillar to stand on when all those nasty rumors come around. You two will run along, holding hands, reading books together, the whole thing. Or so the game says, anyway. Really, though. What's up with all the kids at this school? Both in Sayori's routes and here. Oh, wow! Yeah, you've actually kept track of which routes I've done. That's pretty cool, actually. That's really cool. I like that they actually keep track of, oh, you've already done the Sayori route, and now the Yuri route, so now I can't say Natsuki's route and here. It's Sayori's route and here, whatever, you know? That's really cool. Kids seem fairly vicious, don't they? Geez, what school did we enroll into to have all these kinds of people? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter to you. After all, you're happy with Yuri. Is there anything else left for me to say, though? Not that it really matters in the end. Don't let me keep you from being happy. Do what you want. Alright, so that is the Yuri route. So yeah, so far the theory still holds up. We do all the girls first, and then we do Natsuki, of course, is next. But then after Natsuki, I guess we go for Monika. Yeah, alright, so the Yuri route. It was pretty nice. It was interesting that they didn't focus a lot on the self-harm thing. I mean, obviously for the Sayori route, they focus a lot on her depression, which makes sense. But, you know, usually they focus with Yuri on her self-harm, or whatever causes the self-harm. Whatever causes it can be different per mod, of course. In general, Yuri is just like the lonely girl, and then she often has that as the cause for her self-harm. But in other times it's being bullied, or or she uses it as punishment. Here it was a little bit of everything. Because I believe she mentioned it in one brief moment, one giant like monologue at the graveyard, and then that was it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna look for a therapist later, but I don't think I'm ready for that yet. And it's like, okay. And now it's like, oh yeah, I'm ready for a therapist now, and then there we go. The self-harm is never mentioned again. So they mostly focused on whatever caused the self-harm rather than the self-harm itself, I guess. The bullying. And the sort of the isolation from Yuri's perspective. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that there would be more sort of an origin to the bullying. Now the bullying was just sort of there. I was kind of hoping that there would be more of a reasoning as to why they targeted Yuri specifically. Because it's, you know, when MC started to hang out with Yuri more, that's when those guys came up to, hey, I see you hanging out with this purple-haired girl. Like, she's fucking weird, dude. Like, stay away from her. So, I was kind of hoping that eventually there would be sort of an origin to that, you know? Like, why specifically Yuri was targeted by this. Was it because she did something, or because... Like, you know, like, did she actually have, like, a fault of something? Like, did she try to befriend somebody and that backfired super badly, so as a result they sort of lash out and then that sort of stuck around? Or was it because... Is it just because they're nasty people? Kind of like what Monika said here at the end. Like, oh, what a bunch of nasty people in our school. Maybe it was just that. Maybe Yuri just met some unfortunate people and then... Yuri tried to be friends with them because, of course, you know, she didn't know that they were bad people. And then they learned about her weird hobbies and like, oh, you're so fucking weird. And then that's how it happened. I don't know. I was kind of hoping it was going to be a bit more of that, but there was not really any origin of the bullying. The bullying was just there. Yuri is lonely and being bullied, and that's it. Also, the connection with Natsuki is a little out of the blue. I mean... If you just keep... Because the only thing that they kept was, of course, the poem stuff from the original game. So, yeah, there's that. There's a little bit of Natsuki and Yuri growing closer through the poems that they write, because that's what happens in the vanilla game as well. But I wouldn't necessarily feel like they were... I mean, just after that huge argument, there's only a couple of days, and then already Natsuki is like, yeah, Yuri's my BFF, so if you mess with her, I'm going to fucking kill you. That feels a little bit weird, you know? I don't mind Yuri and Natsuki being like super close friends, but I feel like there should have been a bit more for them to actually be close friends. I mean, I guess that happened off screen, but, you know, that's my headcanon, I guess. Yeah, and then, so yeah, that was a bit out of the blue, I feel like, the very close relationship between Yuri and Natsuki, because I feel like a bit of a broken record since I keep referring to Blue Skies, but, you know, in Blue Skies, you actually had to set that up, and then later on, I believe also Natsuki says something along those lines, like, hey, if you're going to break her heart, I'm going to fucking kill you, or something along those lines. When, I believe it's when Yuri and MC sort of announced their relationship to the rest of the school, or to the rest of the club, I mean. And Sayori has a bit of a sad smile, because of course she also has a crush on MC. Natsuki doesn't really seem to have one, but then she goes, Yuri is my BFF, so if you break her heart, I'm going to murder you. There it makes sense that she says that, but here it just feels a bit out of the blue, because you don't really see any interaction between Yuri and Natsuki. You have only that it's going the right way because of the poems that they write. You know, there's the huge argument, of course, and then they write the 2 poems later. Although, actually, in Yuri's case, we don't even see that, because if you write only Yuri poems, Natsuki is going to cut you off on the 2nd and 3rd day, so that you don't actually see that they wrote about the same things. Because, you know, if you do write for other people, or for multiple people, not only for Yuri, but for multiple people. Like in Sayori's case, I wrote 3 Sayori poems when I did the Sayori route. That was by accident, because I was picking random words. Well, words focused on me, not specifically for Sayori. But when I wrote 3 Sayori poems, then you can see the progression. Then, of course, there's the first poem day is the argument. The 2nd poem day is the accidental writing about the same thing. And then Natsuki and Yuri getting intrigued, depending on who you choose first, you know? If you choose Yuri first, of course you can't tell Yuri that Natsuki wrote a similar poem, because you haven't read Natsuki's poem yet. And vice versa, the same thing. If you choose Natsuki first, you can't tell her that Yuri wrote about the same thing. Yeah, I usually pick Yuri first, then Natsuki. So for me, it's usually Natsuki who is surprised, because I've already read Yuri's poem by that point, so I can tell Natsuki, hey, Yuri wrote about the same thing. And like Natsuki's, oh? Well, of course. Whatever, it's not like I care. And then in the third day, then, of course, they deliberately wrote about the same thing, and they both wrote about the beach. And then they talk about that. So... yeah, so you see that when you write other people's poems. But if you write 3 Yuri poems, which is what it is for the Yuri route, you don't even see that. You see the argument on the first poem day, then Natsuki realizes you wrote the 2nd poem for Yuri, and kicks you out before sharing her own poem. And on the 3rd poem day, she immediately goes like, next! And then you can't even read anything from her poems. You can't even read her poem at all, again, for the 2nd time in a row. So you don't even see that when you go for Yuri's route. But then you're supposed to still believe that that happens. I mean, if you've played the original game, you know that that happens. But it's a bit of a leap in judgment, or whatever you call that. Suspension in disbelief, or whatever. But you sort of have to assume that they all make... the only thing you see is that humongous argument, and then Natsuki being angry at you. And then immediately after that, well, not immediately, but the very next time you have a Natsuki interaction, because you don't interact with her at all, the very next time you have a Natsuki interaction, all of a sudden she's super friendly. And she's very protective of Yuri, because Yuri is her BFF. Like, all of that shit happened off screen. Her reconciling with Yuri, her writing the poems about the same topics, getting closer together, becoming good friends, becoming BFFs, becoming so good friends that Natsuki wants to kill people that mess with Yuri. You know, like, all of that stuff happens off screen. So it's a bit of a... and you don't even see anything in terms of Natsuki. Same thing with the Sayori route. With Yuri, you spend only time with Yuri and barely any time with the other club members. It's a bit more than with Sayori, but there's not a lot. And then you're supposed to sort of have this... so supposed to believe that Yuri and Natsuki are super BFFs, but that all happened off screen, so it's a bit hard to believe. And they don't even specifically say it out loud. You just assume that from the vibe that Natsuki puts out, that she's very protective of Yuri. So like, alright, well, she must care about Yuri, because otherwise she wouldn't say this stuff. You know, if she was still angry at her with the poem stuff, like you saw in the vanilla part of the game, you know, then, you know, she wouldn't care about any of this stuff. But she does care, so she must really think very highly of Yuri. So that's a bit weird that all of that is moved off camera. And not only that, it's never mentioned even. So you just have to sort of assume that stuff out of the blue. Which is a bit of a leap that you're supposed to make. It's a bit of an oversight in my mind. But that's the same thing that I had with the Sayori route. All of the other club members are just absent. Which, again, I understand because you're on this person's route. So obviously you're going to spend a lot of time with that person. So that makes sense. But I felt like with other mods, once again, broken record, blue skies, even though you are on a certain girl's route, you see the others, you spend time in the club, you see the others, you talk with the others. There is subplots involving the others with the route that you're on. You know, with Yuri's route, it was befriending Natsuki, and MC fixing his friendship with Sayori. In Sayori's route, it is MC fixing his friendship with Yuri, because he keeps making appointments with Yuri, but then cancels them all the time because he needs to talk to Sayori, or he needs to help Sayori or support Sayori. And then Yuri constantly thinks that he doesn't want to be friends with her. So then she sort of like pushes him away, because he's like, well, then stay away then. And then he has to like fix that without telling or spilling the story, what's it called? Without spilling the secrets about Sayori's depression. And later on, it involves the other club members, Monika and Natsuki as well, when Sayori explains her depression, and then that's also when you start to fix your friendship with Yuri again. And with the Natsuki route, which was my least favorite route of Blue Skies, there is also stuff with the other club members about Natsuki's past, mostly with Monika. So yeah, that's not just Blue Skies, there's other mods that do that as well. So it's a bit weird that they're so aggressively excluded from the routes in this mod. Which again, I understand that you're on that person's route, so you spend time with that person. You know, it's a bit weird to complain, oh, there's so much Yuri in the Yuri route. Like, yeah, no shit, of course. You're on the Yuri route. There's gonna be, you know, Yuri is gonna be there. Like, it would be weird if she wasn't, right? It's her route. You chose her. It would be weird if she barely shows up. So I understand that, you know, I understand that you spend majority of the time with the girl whose route you're on. That makes sense. The fact that I disagree with is that the others are so aggressively absolutely cut out. They barely show up. Which is a narrative choice that they made with this mod, but I feel like it's not really the correct choice, so to speak, you know? I prefer it if the others are there in some regards, and not just like occasionally like, oh, hey, there they are, goodbye. It was done better in Yuri's route, because the conflict had to be resolved together with Natsuki and Sayori, but mostly Natsuki. And Monika was there also. But yeah, it was also a bit weird because they all sort of like banded together just to get MC and Yuri together, which is a bit odd. Like, they weren't really doing it because they're good friends with them, but they're doing it because almost like because I am on the Yuri route, so they are sort of programmed to do it, you know? But I preferred it if they were just like, oh, well, you know, we are the literature club. We are all super close friends with each other. Two of our club members who happen to be in a relationship are going through a tough time. We're going to band together and help them. That's how I feel like it should have been. But it was mostly, oh, they're on the Yuri route, so we must help now. That's kind of what it felt like. Like, Monika programmed them to do this. Like, oh, there we go. Gotta help them. So that's a bit odd. But they did it better than with Sayori, because Sayori's route, barely anybody showed up. The only time you saw Monika was when Monika said, alright, club is over, goodbye, and then she leaves immediately, and then we go back to being with Sayori only. So yeah, I feel like it was a bit better, but still not as much as I would have liked. Again, maybe I have ridiculously high connoisseur type standings, but I feel like it could have been done a bit better. Also, just realized I spent this entire first part of this review of the Yuri ride only talking about negative things, which is a bit silly. So let's finish on a positive note in that case. All the things that I liked about the ride. I really liked that it was a bit odd, but I do like that they not really focus on the self-harm, but mostly about what causes the self-harm, which in this case was the bullying. And Yuri being isolated because of that. Again, my criticism still stands. It was a bit odd that the self-harm thing was sort of brushed to the side and over and done with within like a couple lines of dialogue. But I do like the idea of sort of mostly fixing or focusing on this story, because, you know, there's tons of stories where they focus on the self-harm only. So this is sort of the other way, where they sort of focus on the origin only, you know. But, you know, it's a combined thing. Whatever origin caused the self-harm, they'll cause the self-harm. So, you know, like, you can't necessarily separate the two, because they're both part of the same thing. Yuri's being bullied, and that is why she self-harms. So if you can't really write a story only about the bullying or only about the self-harm, because they come in as a package, you know. So, but yeah, I do like that they're focused on that. But yeah, it's a bit weird that the self-harm is just like, oh, self-harm therapist gone. You know, that's a bit like, all right, you could have put a bit more effort into that. But yeah, I really like that they mostly focus on the origin here, because a lot of mods that I played before, they mostly only focus on the self-harm. There's like, that's the other way around. There's like, this or that caused it. You know, bullying or something. Loneliness. This or that. People bully me, weird hobbies. Here's the self-harm. And then they fully flesh out the self-harm thing, and then they just like, oh yeah, fuck, what caused the self-harm? Like rolling a die. There. That causes self-harm. That's 3 lines of dialogue. There you go. Now it's in the mod. Here it's the other way around. They focused on that origin a lot, and then the self-harm is like, self-harm therapist gone. There we go. Resolved. You know, like, so it was interesting that they mostly focus on that origin part, but I felt like, you know, it's a bit, like I said, it's a bit of a combination. It comes as a package. Self-harm and whatever caused that are connected. So I feel like, you know, to elevate it, I feel like they should have done both. But like, you don't necessarily have to do a fully on focus section if you don't want to on the self-harm. But a bit more than, oh hey, self-harm, oh hey, I'll see a therapist, it's over. Well, it'll be over in the future. Done. Never mention it again. Which is basically what happened here. So that's a bit, I don't know. But I do like that they focus on that origin part of the self-harm, rather than just the self-harm itself and then wave away the origin. So I thought it was an interesting sort of like freshening up the dynamic, because it's very easy, I guess, to write a story for Yuri that's just the self-harm part. Like, oh, she self-harms, and oh, it's so terrible, and she wants to stop, but she can't. Like, yeah, we've seen that 1,000 times before. Not that it makes that story any less interesting to tell, but yeah, if done poorly, it feels sort of like chewed on or whatever, you know, something that is like that's been done a lot already, you know, like, well, we've seen this 1,000 times before. So it felt like a bit of a breath of fresh air to sort of focus. No, we're not focusing on the self-harm thing. We're focusing on whatever caused that and how she deals with that and how she still suffers from that, which is in this case the bullying. And then MC also being drawn into the firing line, which I thought was a really interesting aspect as well, to sort of make him hurt by association, so to speak. Like, oh, well, she's a weirdo, and then he is in love with her, so he must be a weirdo too. And then they sort of drag MC into the narrative, you know? So I think that was a very interesting choice as well, to sort of focus on that and to sort of make MC sort of drawn into that, to get him torn into that, in the line of fire, so to speak, you know? So yeah, that was really interesting. It was really nicely done, I think. Because they did focus a lot on that. Also, the cyberbullying aspect was pretty interesting. Something I haven't really seen before. Usually it's sort of like bullying, like physical. Maybe with words, but, you know, in school, not necessarily the cyberbullying part. or the social ostracization or whatever, or she's just ignored by everybody and that's it. So I thought the cyberbullying was an interesting choice. Really, I also think that they wrote that out very well, especially with the bullies doing bullying. You retaliate against bully, and then only you get in trouble. That feels right. I mean, it doesn't, but that feels real life. Like, only punish the people that punch the bully, and not the bully itself. I don't know how many times we've heard that story before, because, you know, it's a cliche for a reason, because it happens so many times. So I feel like that makes sense that they did that. Could have maybe fleshed it out a little bit, because it felt like a little bit too textbook. Oh, only the bully gets away scot-free, and only the person that stands up to the bully gets punished. But whatever. I thought that was a very nice addition, because again, that feels like real life. So that was nice. Yeah, I thought that love confession was really nice in the graveyard. Also feels very on brand for Yuri, where she goes, I'll break up with you, I'll go away. Not because I don't love you, it's actually because I love you. Because I love you so much, I care so much about you, that I absolutely hate the fact that you are suffering from my problems. I'm just... She starts to believe in the bullies, right? Like, I am so messed up. That's why they say all those things. I agree. And I'm dragging you down to my level, and you are such a wonderful person. I'm so madly in love with you. I hold you in such high regard that I can't bear the thought of you being dragged down to my level. So therefore I'm going to... I know it hurts. I don't like it either, but therefore I'm going to break up with you to save you, so to speak, you know, because I love you so much. I don't want you to be dragged down to the depths of hell where I am. I want you to find someone that is better. You deserve someone better than me. So I'm going to break up with you because I care so much about you. That philosophy that Yuri adheres to in this route feels very on brand for Yuri. So that was very nice. And then having to force Yuri to break out of that negative thoughts about herself, and, you know, like saying, I want to be with you, that's my choice. You're not the horrible person that those bullies make you out to be in their emails and stories and whatever. Yeah, and it was a bit underwhelming, but I thought there was a bit of a hint of a niceness there. Sort of the growing confidence for Yuri. They sort of mentioned it, that it happened off screen. Like, oh, Yuri grew more in confidence. But yeah, so that was it, really. But I thought that was also a very nice touch, to have Yuri grow in confidence because of that. Which is also something I really like in the vanilla mod, vanilla game, where Yuri stands up to Monika. Where, you know, if you go to get the water pitcher filled, and then Yuri stands up to Monika because she wants to do something with MC, and then she cares about that, and then Monika is somebody that would just sort of like pull MC away from her. And normally she would have just allowed Monika to do that, but now she actually stood up for herself, and then afterwards, of course, she's super embarrassed. But yeah, like something along those lines. I mean, they just mentioned that happened off screen, but I thought it was a nice touch that they sort of show that Yuri grew in confidence over the course of, you know, the relationship. Something sort of to make them both stronger, you know? Like, and that's also a thing I really liked, that it wasn't just MC coming in to help Yuri, and then that's it. He also had his own struggles and his own flaws that he had to deal with, and then Yuri sort of brought the best out of him as well. So that was also really nice, that it wasn't just MC coming in to fix Yuri. It was, they both fixed each other, you know? They helped each other. Yuri helped MC and MC helped Yuri. And I thought that was very nicely done as well. That it wasn't just, I need to fix her, or whatever. It was both wanting the best out of each other and encouraging the best out of each other. So I thought that was very nice as well. Yeah, that's about it really, I think, for this route. Obviously, the Natsuki ride is next, so I hope to see you guys there. And then we're gonna see if we can do a Monika ride at the very end. Anyways, yeah, see you later, Romans. Valete.